My brain is currently moving at a rate that I forgot was possible. I This year has been interesting for me because, see, for the last couple of years, I've been really optimizing myself around my sort of ups. Um, and I've been focusing as much as possible on orienting my life in such a way that I am up most of the time. For anybody who has ever dealt with atypical ways of processing, ADD, ADHD, even things like depression, anxiety, you've probably experienced the waves of sort of manic and depressive behavior that 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 shape your life. Periods of time when you're like full of energy and you're able to get things done, and like life is just clicking along and everything's going great, and then you start to crest the wave and you have so much energy or so much of whatever it is that like everything breaks, everything stops working, like you're moving too fast for life. And then you start down, on the other end. You fall over the edge of the wave, and then it's like you're plunging, right? And because nothing is working, the energy starts to recede, and you find yourself just sort of falling into a pit, right? You hit the bottom of the wave, and life isn't really like you don't have the energy, you don't have that drive, you're not nothing's clicking. But then as everything slows down, you start to pick up the pieces. You start to get things back in order and sort of right everything that you knocked over in your mad haste before, and things start getting a little bit better, and things start improving, and like you're figuring things out, and figuring things out gives you energy, and so your energy starts to build again. For me, that's my whole life, right? Is these waves of like, I got it figured out, and then boom, it breaks and I'm back down, and then it's like I got to put it back together again. And these cycles of sort of fast and slow. For instance, I've just come out of this period where I wasn't writing as much. So I was only doing like a couple of hours of writing a day, and I wasn't really producing in those periods of time as much as I would like to. And part of the reason for that is that I was sick. I still have the cough to prove it. But also it was because I had crested, and I was experiencing that drop, right? I was experiencing the front side of the wave. And now I'm in this process of starting to put things back together, and then yesterday I hit my groove, and I spent 19 hours writing. Like, I started writing at 5 in the morning, and I stopped for half an hour at 6:30 in the morning, and then for breakfast, and then I stopped for 10 minutes for lunch at like 12:30, and then I stopped for 25 to 30 minutes for dinner at 5, and I finished writing at 1:30 in the morning. I don't know. It's like I clicked in, and it was like, let's go. And you would think that, in a period like that, writing so intently, I would be creatively and physically exhausted. But then I woke up this morning, and I am like vibrating. I don't know how else to describe it, but my mind is just like humming. And I'm having like a million ideas and my creativity is exploding. And this got me thinking about the way I write and about my process and about how I can incorporate these different facets of who I am and my own personality into my creative work. See, I'm all about optimization. I'm all about like finding better ways to do things, finding ways to push my productivity, finding ways to like squeeze the light, like the even the tiniest little drop of extra out of whatever it is I'm doing. And I love that. And I'm not going to change that. And, you know, I'm going to keep going. But over the last week, I've experienced something that has been really fascinating to me. And that's that I abandoned all of my preconceived notions about my creative process, and I just let my creativity work. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'll be totally fine no matter how this turns out. You know, it was kind of an experiment. But no matter how it ends up, I'm going to be totally fine. And it has just been a fascinating process. And it's making me start to realize that I may have been wrong about my own creativity. I still definitely believe that creativity is a skill you develop. It is not a random thing. It is something that can be practiced. It is something that can be improved. But I also am now starting to wonder, and I really mean that. I'm still in the process of thinking this through, and this video in a way is a way for me to verbally process what I'm going through. And I hope you can find some value in it. But I'm starting to wonder if there are ways that I could actually improve my creativity even more by coming to a deeper understanding of how I interact with the wave, how I ebb and flow. If I start, developing practices that I can put into place during my high productivity times when I'm just unbelievably, absolutely focused, I could probably also come up with practices that I can put into place when I'm ebbing, when I'm, when the tide is low, so to speak. And so I'm starting to think about that. Actually, if you have any suggestions, if this is something that you deal with, sort of this ebb and flow of creativity, how do you deal with your low points? Like, how do you deal with it when you fall off the front of the wave? Because on the one hand, I'd really like to spend as much time just before I crest the wave as possible, right? I don't want to crash. I want to spend my time at the top of the wave as long as possible. And there's this concept of peaks and valleys that I know I've talked about on this channel before, where what you do in your valley determines how long you stay at your peaks, and what you do on the peak determines how quickly the next valley comes, right? And it's the same idea of ebb and flow, or, cresting waves. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm still mulling over a lot of this, but I think there's value in being able to come to a clear understanding of yourself, of your creative process, of the way that you engage with the world. Typically, I try to keep myself like 100% on task, because my natural way of thinking is not at all on task, right? I don't often allow myself to just be free mentally. And over the last week, I have really tried to embrace freedom in my thinking and in the way I'm writing. And man, it has been refreshing. It has been great. I find myself filled with joy rather than dread. And one of the side effects really of like high productivity is often that feeling of dread. Just that little nagging feeling of like, man, I don't want to do this. I'm tired. I want to do something else. But then you get up and you make yourself do it anyways because it's important and it's good for you. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with discipline. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with, holding your nose to the grindstone when it's important. But life is often about holding two opposing things in balance. And so I'm wondering if this is one of those instances, and if with my own creativity, this is something that I can hold in balance. I don't know. Thanks for listening to me rant. If you're new to the channel, by the way, I'm supposed to do this at the beginning, but I totally didn't. If you're new to the channel, my name is Seth. I'm a full-time fantasy author, and I enjoy making these YouTube coughing into the mic. Have a great day.